So the UFC 314 press conference just took place yesterday, and we're going to go through this press conference because it was one of the better press conferences. Now, at first, it was pretty boring, but towards the end, it kind of picked up and we got some beef, and a very unexpected beef that I had nothing or no knowledge about in the first place. So, I mean, pretty much, we'll just dive right into it right now. The main thing that happened, I won't go in order, by the way, was Diego Lopez versus Yair. At first, going through this entire press conference, there was pretty much no indication whatsoever that these two had beef with each other. But apparently, this shit runs deep. This shit is actually a long-standing beef between each other. Now, I'll tell you what happened first. How did we get to this point? How did they start beefing? Because it was towards the end, throughout the entire, I would say, 30 to 35 minutes of the press conference, nothing of any sorts that even indicated towards them fighting each other or like getting mad with each other. But then this reporter kind of asked a, I would say, leading question. He pretty much asked, like, what do you have to say about Yair and the comments he made in a car about you? Because apparently Yair does not like Diego Lopez. And I think there's two reasons for that. I think one reason is that he reps Mexico, which is, I think, a whole thing in itself. We'll get to that later. And the second reason is that apparently Diego Lopez's gym confronted or like mistreated or like kind of jumped one of Yair's team members. And there's a little bit of, I guess, dispute in what actually happened between the two gyms. And apparently the two coaches of each gym don't like each other as well. So I guess in Yair Rodriguez's mind, his teammate was jumped for no reason at Diego Lopez's gym. But in Diego Lopez's mind, the reason they jumped his teammate was because Yair's teammate was mistreating a woman inside the gym. So they both kind of have their own thought process of what actually happened that day. And I guess in Yair's mind, his teammate was jumped for no reason. And Lopez's mind is that he was jumped because he was being a dick to a woman in the gym. Now, that's not confirmed. I don't know the actual truth behind the matter, but that's just what I've got from what I've watched from other YouTubers and what people have been saying online for the most part. But when the reporter asked the question about how does Lopez feel about Yair's words about him, he pretty much went straight to how many losses in a row does he have? And the reporter was trying to deflect a little bit, but he was hell-bent on getting this point across. How many losses in a row does Yair Rodriguez have right now? And he was hell-bent on getting that point out. So obviously, Yair didn't like this. He didn't like that Lopez was talking trash about him. So he lets out a nice, calm, just one word, culon. Just that one word. And if you aren't a Spanish speaker, that word's not a very nice word in the Spanish language. It's a very, very mean word. So when Lopez heard that, he went, Colon? And then that pretty much prompted Yair to get up out of his chair and started a whole, I can't translate any of it. I think the translator, who's the GOAT, by the way, the Spanish Portuguese translator is one of the best because he was trying to translate the argument as it was happening because both guys stood up out of their seats and started going in on each other. I don't know what they said. I have no idea. I don't speak Spanish. I kind of pick up some hints every now and then. I know that Lopez was saying escucha a lot, which is listen. So I think he was trying to tell him to just shut up and listen to him. But they were going in on each other for, I would say, a very, very long period of time. It was going on for, I would say, like probably like a few minutes at least, just straight Spanish gibberish going back and forth with each other. So that then prompts John Anik to try to move on with the press conference because they were going to go at it for like all night if it kept going on this way. So then another reporter ends up asking Bryce Mitchell, like, hey, Bryce, would you be open to doing a prayer with Gene Silva after the fight? And then Bryce responds with, oh, hell yeah, brother. You know, I'm down to say a prayer with anybody. And then you just pretty much see Diego Lopez go, pendejo, right in the middle of the microphone. And they start right back up again. So this was probably one of the most unexpected beasts that happened this entire press conference. And it kind of somewhat made the press conference. I'm not going to lie to you. Overall, like, it wasn't too entertaining whatsoever. Like, Patty wasn't really trash talking. Neither was Michael Chandler. The reporters were trying to get into it, or at least they were trying to maybe stir something up. So it didn't really work. And with Lopez and Yair being the ones to really like actually stand up and start arguing, it kind of, made the press conference. And even after the press conference was even done, you saw them still going back at it. Like, the press conference was done and over with. The fighters are all walking off stage to do their face-offs like how it normally is. And you still see Diego Lopez and Yair Rodriguez with a bodyguard in between them, but this time a lot closer than what they were on the stage, just pretty much still arguing. And you could tell it didn't go well. Like, it seemed like they were trying to like reconcile things maybe a little bit, but from what I saw and the body language that I saw, Yair walked away like, fuck that guy, like F that guy. Like, that's what I kind of gathered from the whole end of the conversation. So maybe in the future we get Lopez versus Yair. It would be a very nice matchup. And especially with the beef that they have right now, I think it would do another good press conference. And I'm down to see it. I like the matchup. I like the styles as well. I don't mind Lopez versus Yair ever happening. It would be a treat. Now, how does it happen? Yair obviously has to beat Patricio Pitbull, and if he does beat him, does he earn a title shot versus Lopez? I don't know. I think it would take Lopez losing to Volk and then Yair beating Pitbull for that matchup to happen. Otherwise, I don't see how you could justify it. Maybe you could. It's the UFC. If there's a narrative in a fight to happen that could sell and make money, they'll probably do that over the rightful heir. But, Evolev's in the background waiting for his title shot. So I don't know what they're going to do and how they're going to justify it. You can't really skip over Evloev right now. But honestly, if they did and did Yair versus Lopez for the belt, I wouldn't mind that either. And if Lopez just straight up loses to Volk, then I wouldn't mind that happening still. But yeah, that pretty much was the whole, I guess, big moment of the press conference. And I do want to mention some of Bryce Mitchell a little bit because at first, I think when he first came onto the stage or when he was first speaking, I think he got some boos, man. I think people were like, it was a mixture of boos and cheers for Bryce Mitchell. So going into it, it felt like a mixed response from the people. But by the end of the press conference, Bryce Mitchell was only getting cheers. People loved Bryce Mitchell in this press conference. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what got them over pretty much. And it was like Gene Silva got a question and the reporter pretty much asked him like, how can you make this press conference like good? Like your last press conference, you got the people on your side. Like, what did you do? Can you do it in this press conference? Something along those lines. I don't know exactly what he asked. And pretty much Gene Silva was trying to get the crowd to bark. Because if you don't know, Gene Silva does his signature, like his barking shit. I don't know what to even say with it. So once Gene Silva sat back down and the crowd stopped barking, you pretty much see like, I mean, almost like a very, I would say like serial, kind of vibes from Bryce Mitchell. He puts the microphone up to his face and he goes, you know what? I've put a lot of dogs down in my day. Those dogs like to come up to my farm and they attack my animals. But you know what? All those dogs got one thing in common. They squeal when they die. That pretty much was the one line that got, I think, everybody onto Bryce Mitchell's side. It's just him being like, just this dude, I don't know, like the signs were there, man. Like I think when Bryce Mitchell full went on to this, I guess, full personality is when he had a fight in the Apex one time and he brought like the Holy Bible to his walkout and he put it up in the air and like Bryce Mitchell has had the signs before. I think this personality fully came out in that fight. I think it was against Dan Ige, by the way. So the signs were there, and now he's pretty much fully acting on, Bryce Mitchell. Now, Bryce Mitchell to me, I'm gonna be real with you. I never actually given my formal take on Bryce Mitchell at all. I kind of just let it go. Bryce Mitchell is kind of that unk who you kind of just listen to and laugh at, but you don't take anything serious that he says, right? Now, there's some things I don't mind about Bryce Mitchell, like his whole Christian message. That's all fine to me. Obviously, his podcast stuff is a different conversation, but I don't think he's out here trying to, cause a lot of harm. He's like a flat earther. You're just like, yeah, look at this dude. But I don't think he's inherently a bad person. I don't think he's an awful human being. And so I don't think Gene Silva portraying him in this press conference as a person who is, he disagrees with fundamentally on everything, which, Gene Silva is also Christian. So how does he really disagree with a lot of Bryce Mitchell's stuff that he says? Because Bryce Mitchell says a lot of Christian stuff. So, I mean, I understand like the whole like podcast things, but I don't think Gene Silva fundamentally disagrees with everything that Bryce Mitchell says. But I get it. You have to look a certain way to the people. You don't want to be on Bryce Mitchell's side at all, because if you are, then you're just you're a terrible person, by the way. I'm not on Bryce Mitchell's side, by the way. I just don't think that, obviously what he said in the podcast is, I disagree with that, but I don't think him overall as a person, he should be shunned and put in the corner and locked away and never seen again. No, I think he's actually thoroughly entertaining. Does he say some dumb shit from time to time? Of course. Do I agree with that? No, but I think that he should be allowed to, talk. I don't know. I think he should be allowed to talk. But after the dog analogy, the crowd loved it. They were fully on Bryce Mitchell's side. There was no more, I guess, mixed boos at all, if I even heard any in the first place. I think I did. But Bryce Mitchell is now the guy the crowd is kind of behind at this point. Now, After that, Gene Silva was pretty much saying to him, like, look him in the eyes, look through the camera, look me in the eyes, I'm going to knock you out. Cool stuff. I like Gene Silva. I do think he will end up beating Bryce Mitchell. Prediction live stream happening tonight, probably. But he was basically trying to, I guess, instill some sort of fear into Bryce Mitchell, which I don't think is possible. This man he's on something. I don't know what he's on, but he's on something. So good, I guess, good promotion for Bryce Mitchell and Gene Silva. I think these fights between Bryce Mitchell and Gene Silva and Lopez and Yair are fights that people will be excited for. Obviously, the one that's actually happening and Bryce Mitchell and Gene Silva will be a pretty amped up fight, and people will be watching it. This is actually a really good pay-per-view, if I don't say. But yeah, Bryce Mitchell and Gene Silva, can't wait to watch that. We'll move on. One thing I wrote in my notes as well was reporters trying to get Lopez to comment on people criticizing him for repping Mexico. Apparently, people have a lot of issues with Diego Lopez repping Mexico. Obviously, I mentioned Yair before that, but there's other, I guess, Mexican fighters who don't like that, Lopez is repping their country. I think one is like Tracy Cortez, who's American, by the way. She has, obviously Mexican heritage, but, I think she was born and raised in America. I'll double check that. Yeah, she was actually born in Phoenix, Arizona. So, I mean, like, she reps Mexico as well. I mean, like, listen, this guy came from, I think he moved from Brazil to Mexico at a very early age. He trains there, he lives there. He's always in Mexico. I don't understand how he cannot rep Mexico. If an immigrant came to America at a very early age and they lived here and they started training here, I don't care if they rep America. I don't care. It's simple as that. And if he wants to rep Mexico, I think people should be open to that. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I'm not Mexican. I don't know how their culture is down there. But for me personally, if somebody came to America who was an immigrant and wants to call himself American, sure. I think sure. But overall, the reporters, I think they asked like 3 questions to Diego Lopez, like, how do you feel about people criticizing you for repping Mexico? And he's like, I don't care. It's criticism. I agree with them. It's just like, whatever. I rep Mexico. I'm Mexican. Cool. Whatever. Move on. Volk, same old. That's pretty much the end of the press conference. Like, there wasn't much to that after that. It was just same old Volk, talk about his amazing weight cut. Cool. And then Dominic Reyes and Krolov got like 1 question each, and they both had nothing to offer. It was just, it was like outside of Lopez and Yair and Bryce Mitchell and Gene Silva, not the best press conference, but from what we've gotten in the past, definitely one of the better ones, I would say. But yeah, overall, that was the 314 press conference. I enjoyed it. It was a nice, I would say, B press conference, better than the last like 4 we've gotten. There's not been many press conferences that have been worth my time as of late, and this one I would say was worth my time. So if you missed it, go back and rewatch it so you know what I'm talking about. But overall, yeah, good press conference. That's it. I'm out of here. Like, subscribe, bell icon notifications, but I'll see y'all later. Peace.